It was the worst experience of my life. Everything was just like excruciating.
From a very, very young age, Black women are taught to expect that pain is a part of the hairstyling process.
I had like Botox and a facelift.
It's like, seriously, no pain, no gain, right? Thugging it out in the chair, like
holding onto the armrest,
braiding the hair and getting the hair braided so tightly that you require the use of a pain reliever. That is not normal.
I had to take painkillers.
Pop some pills.
I managed to party my way through the day and night.
Everything would be fine. No, it was not fine.
Pain is your body's sign of telling you that something is wrong.
My hair was coming out from breaking.
All I kept envisioning was like, this baby's gonna come and I'm gonna have a tender head.
If you're experiencing pain when someone is braiding your hair, I am very suspicious that you're gonna end up with some form of traction alopecia when those braids come down.
Did I say anything? No, I didn't.
I don't like feeling like I wasted my money, so I kept the style in.
I was a lot younger. Maybe I didn't feel empowered to.
Eliminating pain as part of the hairstyling culture, I think, is really, really important and is a huge first step in tackling kind of this increase in traction alopecia that we're seeing.
I paid a lot of money for it, and at that point, I was over it. I didn't care.
I was like, this is not gonna work.
So it was something that I've actually never done again.
Braids and the styles that require them have become a huge part of Black hair, but getting them done can sometimes be a painful experience. 40% of women who wear protective styles say they've had to take a pain reliever after getting their hair done, and being in that much pain can lead to hair loss. As a founder of a mobile hairstyling service and as someone who doesn't love doing her hair, I've been personally invested in finding out if protective styling is doing more harm than good, and if it is, what we can do about it. I've spoken to women who wear their hair in protective styles, put out a huge survey, read a ton of studies, and brought together a group of experts and a hair care brand, all to find out if protective styles can truly be protective. And my first step in answering that question was understanding how we even got to where we are.
Black hair has changed tremendously. When I was starting out, it was all about the relaxer. I mean, if you got the lightest bit of curl at your root, it was like, oh, my hair's nappy.
We transitioned from initially just kind of relaxing our hair and straightening it to then doing things to minimize breakage.
By the time 2013 hit, a lot more people were going natural and experimenting with the versatility of their hair. We were doing things like braid outs and twist outs and bantu knots, but then also really getting into braided styles like cornrows, lemonade braids, crochets. We use all of that.
Well, I have my little pet peeve with protective styling. Well, you know, when the New Jacks came around, the new naturalistas, they kind of came up with their own language. When I call it like the fourth wave of natural hair came in, many women started calling my salon. I was shocked to find out that they didn't want braids. They didn't want twists. They wanted their own hair. And then, you know, the drudgery of everyday maintenance, I think, got to them, and they said, well, we poo-hooed, you know, braids and twists, and now we need them, so let's come up with a great name for them. They're protective styles.
And doing a protective style was a way of giving your hair a rest, whether it was a weave, whether it was braids, whether it was twists, whatever it was, those were ways of not having to really do anything to your hair, putting heat or anything or damage like that.
The genius of our ancestors, they came up with these creative, beautiful styles because our hair does better when it's just resting as opposed to daily grooming.
I wear protective styles because I don't have time to deal with this head of hair. I really don't. I need to be able to wake up. I need to be able to hit it. I gotta roll. Get the baby, get to the meeting, and get out the door. And then I'm good for like a good while. You know, I definitely have an idea of how I should look and how I want my hair to look, right? Like the hair of my dreams. And then I have to mix that in with what I actually have time for.
Cut to today, I've started to stumble upon pockets of the internet where women are discussing the hair loss that they are experiencing as a result of too much protective styling.
For years, when we think about cosmetology and the hairstyling industry, you go through these 1,500 or 1,600 hour programs only to learn how to destroy your hair. And so when we think about the products that were on the market, it was about how to maintain hair while it's straight, how to keep it straight, how to keep it from frizzing. And so when we transition into a time now where women are saying, you know, no, I want to wear my hair in its natural state and I want to wear it braided, they don't have the education once the style is installed on how to properly care for their hair.
I think we got very relaxed with our behavior towards protective styles and feeling like, oh, well, these are braids and so there's no maintenance to it. Like, that's the misconception, that because it's something that I don't have to fool with as much, it now gives you the idea that you don't have to sort of put some love to it and maintain it. And I think that's probably one of the misconceptions and things that have caused people to experience breakage.
There is this interesting dichotomy when you think about the term protective styling, because it does bring up this conversation about, are protective styles really protective? Because we have so many women, even up until now, who are experiencing hair loss, and younger and younger. I'm seeing women in their 20s who are experiencing hair loss around the hairline and trying to find solutions to that. And unfortunately, a lot of that hair loss is permanent hair loss.
So in the very beginning, there was a lot of lost hairlines that we saw from having perm touch-ups too often, too strong of a relaxer on the hairline. So there were a lot of women coming in with half an inch of lost hairline from the beginning. And that was the most damage that we saw. And then like a decade later, I started seeing women who had lost hairline from braiding that was done too tight. Usually at salons where, you know, the stylists haven't been to beauty school. They just know how to braid hair and, you know, they're not taking these things into consideration.
So I was going to Thailand, and of course, every time that I'm going away, I like to do my hair in a protective style. I got braids with crochet like curls. While I was getting done, I did feel discomfort. I felt it getting tighter, like the braids getting tighter and tighter. So I mentioned it to her, but she was like, it's gonna loosen up, like it's just because it's your first time, which it wasn't. But I had no way to take the hair out because I was traveling. All I had was like these little tiny clippers that you like groom your eyebrows with. And I had all 5 of my friends start to take the hair out because I couldn't take it. I was starting to get bumps. I was like, my scalp was red, and we were there for like 4 hours. Mind you, we're on vacation. Everyone's ready to do things. We're in the middle of Bangkok, and I was like, absolutely not. My hair was coming out from breaking. It was horrible. I will never do crochet again.
I think my thinning edges may have came from the one time I got crochet braids, and it wasn't the crochet braids itself. It was because when I took the style out, I literally got my hair crocheted again the very next day. So it was too much tension on my hair, and I think that's where my thinning came from. So the thinning edges definitely made me self-conscious, especially in a time where everyone they're laying their baby hairs and their edges, and I'm just like, I can't do that. I have to work my way through that, so I've just been using a lot of castor oil and tea tree oil trying to nurse it back. So I'm at a place now where I'm happy, but I'm still nursing them.
Yes, I have a couple friends who have thinning edges and live by castor oil, and it's not working. It's not working.
I think that traction alopecia affects about 1/3 of all Black women. So traction alopecia is a form of non-scarring, which means reversible hair loss, that usually affects the frontal hairline of the scalp. And this is a form of hair loss that occurs as a result of use of tight braids, extensions, tight ponytails. And it has this insidious progression. And what that means is that it really happens very slowly over time. So many women might not even notice that they're dealing with traction alopecia until it becomes really, really progressed. And when it becomes progressed, it does eventually hit a scarring or irreversible stage. If you have a single braiding experience and it's a little bit thin and you recognize that, you can take a break from braiding, take a break from using any kind of tight weaves or cornrows, and then it should come back. If you're having a little bit more trouble getting it to come back on its own, that's when we start recommending medical treatments. So several years ago, I published a study about hairstyles that are more likely to lead to traction alopecia, and we divided those hairstyles into 3 categories, so high-risk hairstyles, moderate risk, and low risk. And high-risk hairstyles are things like very tightly done dreadlocks or micro braids, so you have those really, really fine, very small braids that insert along the hairline. And then moderate risk hairstyles were things like braids applied to natural hair, which are less likely to lead to hair loss than braids applied to relaxed hair. Also things like buns and ponytails. And then our low risk hairstyles were things like your hair just being worn loosely, or very loose buns or loose ponytails where you kind of change the height of the ponytail over time. I think it's not as black and white as coming up with like a list of hairstyles that lead to traction alopecia, but really a patient by patient basis and really understanding who's at risk for developing traction in those hairstyles and who's less at risk. And so that chart is actually excellent for people who I say have hair that's not very resilient. There are some women who honestly can do anything they want to their hair. It will be beautiful. They will experience no hair loss at all. Those women do not end up in my clinic. The women who end up in my clinic are the ones who try those beautiful hairstyles and it pulls out their hair no matter what they do. And that's when we really talk about, is there something that you can do to make this less dangerous and less likely to lead to hair loss for you?
I haven't had any real breakage. My hair is in a protective style most of the time. And having it in the twist, that does allow me to care for it while it's in the twist. You know, my scalp and, you know, I can use all types of oils and stuff like that. So I don't really have that issue. And the twists don't create a tension on my scalp.
I started this journey thinking that the problem with protective styles was mainly in how they're installed, but it quickly became clear that there's a bit more to this. We as women who wear our hair in braids, weaves, or crochets need to get to know how resilient our hair is and understand what styles it can handle. A new standard of braiding needs to be taught and adopted by hairstyling professionals. And what's equally as critical is also adopting new habits for maintaining protective styles, because a low maintenance style doesn't mean no maintenance. Armed with these findings, I brought a few of our mobile stylists together, along with the experts I consulted with and the women who shared their stories, all in an effort to create a new standard of installing and maintaining protective styles.
Clients should prepare for a protective style by making sure their hair is clean. So I oftentimes recommend that you are using a clarifying shampoo and then following up with a moisturizing shampoo for sure, because you want to replenish that moisture. I know that leave-in conditioners are really popular, but you want to make sure when you're going into a protective style, you want your hair to be in the most optimal condition that it can be in, so that deep conditioning is going to be of most importance. And then you want to make sure that you blow dry your hair. Prior to blow drying the hair, I always recommend that you seal in that moisture using a blend of essential oils or a light oil to protect your hair from the heat. And you want your hair to be dry before going into styles with extensions, because you want to make sure that you're preventing any level of breakage on the hair. One thing that I like to teach stylists to make sure that they're not placing too much tension on their client's hair while styling is to have body awareness. And so if you're holding tension in your body while you're braiding, you're more than likely placing that tension on your client's scalp. And so really being mindful of the amount of tension that you're holding in your fingertips, that you're holding in your shoulders, that you're holding in your back, and being relaxed, because the art of braiding and twisting should just flow. I like to say there's a choreography to it that's very, very simple. But if you feel like you have to strain and twist and you're doing all of this extra work in your body, more than likely that's a sign for you as a stylist and a technician that you could be causing some discomfort for your client.
The salon that I once had always had a focus on health first. So I trained my staff how to determine the amount of hair to put into a client's hair based on their hair texture, the thickness of their hair. So our clients, like myself, could get protective styles for years and have no hair loss. I see that there's sometimes not the ratio between what type of hair the person has and the amount of hair that you're using compared to the amount of the extension hair. And that's very important. You can't have a whole bunch of extension hair, like let's say an inch of extension hair on a quarter of an inch of the client's hair. You're gonna pull their hair out of their head. The volume of the hair and the length, you have to really determine, can that client get that hair style. Their hair might be too thin, too fine for that style.
So when you're getting your hair braided or any type of extension style, you're going to experience some level of tension because your hair strands are being manipulated. They're being pulled into these styles, but it shouldn't be excessive. It shouldn't be painful. You shouldn't experience any type of extreme discomfort, and you shouldn't feel like you have to take medication in order to get your hair done. Whenever I am preparing my client's hair for a style like a crochet, because the cornrow itself is the base, you're going to get a certain level of tension from the cornrow, and then you're going to get a certain level of tension from actually installing the crochet. So the cornrow itself doesn't have to be tight because you need room in order to attach the crochet extension to the cornrow. So I'm just going to use a little bit of product, but as I braid her hair back, I'm being mindful of the tension in my actual fingers. So I don't have to pull her hair really, really tight in order to create this braid. I just have to be mindful again of the choreography of what my fingers are doing as I braid her hair back. So as I braid her hair back, I'm gently and slowly picking up the hair with my index finger.
I feel like I'm getting a head massage. I'm in heaven.
Okay, great.
I love it.
Which is normally not my experience. So I might take a nap, everybody.
So yes, I always explain to clients that as they're getting their hair done, if they're experiencing any pain, any excessive tension, one, to let me know. I think sometimes what happens is clients are afraid to express to their stylist that they're experiencing discomfort because of this myth and this belief that it's supposed to be tight in order for it to last, or in order for it to look good, or in order for it to be neat. And then again, because pretty much all of us, the first person to braid our hair was probably our mama or our grandma. You know, you start squirming in the chair, you know, you might get popped with that comb. But the reality is it shouldn't hurt. Communication is really important. I think the more that stylists open up communication with their clients and help them to feel safe expressing what it is that they may want, what feels comfortable for them, then when that trust is built, then you're gonna have a community of women who are going to continue to come back and see their natural hairstylist.
Melanie just got these beautiful cornrows done, and we see that they were done very well and not too much tension. But just in case she did have a little discomfort, what we do is we go in with our tension tamer that has the peppermint oil and the avocado oil. And we just go in onto the scalp. And as you can see, it's very light, it's very fluid. That peppermint oil is gonna give her some soothing comfort. That avocado oil is just gonna add to the moisture. The good thing about it is it doesn't flake, and we suggest that you use it twice daily. I would probably use it in the morning and right before I go to bed at night. Does it feel refreshing? Okay. You feel like your grandma just gave you a piece of peppermint candy in church? I thought so.
So you want to make sure that when you're wearing your protective styles that you are using a product that you can apply to your hair and scalp daily. So some type of daily moisturizing spray that gives you a great balance of hydration through the use of water or glycerin and essential oils. And I know there are a lot of Black girls and Black women, once you go into the protective styles, they consider it a big break, even from shampooing their hair. But it's so important that we're keeping our hair and our scalps clean so that we can prevent a lot of scalp disorders.
So when I think about the ideal washing frequency, especially for Black women or women with very tightly curled hair, I really love once a week. I think that once a week really gives curly hair the ability to be moisturized. Ideally, when you wash your hair once a week, it should be deep conditioned every time you wash. And I'm really thinking about women with very tightly curled 4B, 4C hair. Now, if you have your hair in a protective style, ideally you would maintain that same washing frequency. So once a week shampooing, but if that's too frequent, I think anywhere between 1 and 3 weeks would be recommended, with more frequent use of a very light leave-in conditioner spray.
Okay, so Lauren has these beautiful crochet goddess locks, and these are one of the styles that you're definitely not gonna be immersing in water and shampooing. So because the hair is hollow, and if she was to put this in water, it would definitely unravel. So that's where we come in with the Dark and Lovely hair refresher. The good thing about it is it doesn't give you a heavy residue, it's very light, And once again, it has the aloe that's really good for the scalp.
Do you use it every day then?
You definitely can use it every day because it's invisible and there's no heavy buildup. And so just like when you take your shower and you want to feel fresh, I definitely would use this every day to feel fresh.
Even when we have women who are wearing their braids and they're twisting their cornrows, there's still this idea that it's supposed to be slick and smooth. And so when you're wearing a kinky twist, the hair is coiled and it's curly. So there's gonna be some frizz, but there's still this idea that women have that it still needs to be slick and they don't want to see the frizz, so they're still pulling their ponytails too tight. I tell women all the time, they get their hair braided and then they want to pull it up into this tight bun or this tight ponytail, and that's only adding more damage. And so it's on both sides. It's on the technician side, learning how to install it safely so that we're not pulling the hair out during the process of installing the style, but then the consumer needing to have that paradigm shift that, okay, if you were wearing your hair straight and so you're used to that silhouette, now you're wearing your hair in its natural state, or you're wearing your hair in a style that's going to enhance those curls or celebrate your hair in its natural state. And that means there's going to be some frizzing and the curl may pop out here and there. And that's okay. It's actually beautiful. And having to have that shift in mindset.
So I generally like a frequency of 4 weeks in a protective style and 4 weeks out. So at least a 1-to-1 ratio. And I think 4 weeks is generally like a good rule of thumb. If you're leaving in your extensions for longer than that, it's just much harder to avoid breakage during the takedown process.
Removing the style is so important. And it's so important because oftentimes women, if they have anything negative to say about protective styles and braids, they're gonna say, oh, braids break your hair. And I like to tell clients and stylists that the breakage really happens during the takedown process. And so when taking down your style, the first important thing that you have to have is patience. And then you need the right product. And so I like to recommend that you use some type of cleansing conditioner that can help soften and break down that dirt and buildup that collects in the hair when you've worn your style for so long. What typically happens when women are taking down or removing their styles, they encounter that little area of buildup and matting. If they don't have the patience, they're not using the right product, that frustration sets in, and they're yanking and pulling at those areas, and that causes breakage.
Okay, Antonia, we have the detangling cream, which is perfect for taking out your braids. It has peppermint oil and avocado oil. So what you do is you take a good little dime size and you just saturate all around. Now the peppermint oil is gonna help with the scalp, but the avocado oil is gonna go in and moisturize and soften that hair for when we get ready to take these braids out, and to help with all of that excess hair that's gonna shed out when you get ready to brush it. So I suggest that you normally would leave it on for a few minutes and just go through your whole head and saturate it. Don't be afraid to use the whole bottle if you need to, if you got that many braids, but go ahead and saturate your whole scalp, then come back and start to take it out. So the detangling cream is gonna aid in helping it to just slide right on out. There you go. Just that easy.
Oh man, what did I learn? So to be honest, I was a little bit nervous going through this whole process because the idea that protective styling isn't actually protective was a bit scary on two levels, both as a businesswoman but also as someone who frequently wears my hair in a protective style. But I think the key takeaway, and it is a little bit simple, is that, you know, everything in moderation and everything with the right amount of care will eventually sort of allow us to strike the balance that we need in order to continue to celebrate our culture, and as well as wear the styles that are conducive to our lifestyles. And I think it's just been interesting to see what's sort of gotten us to this point. There are two sort of forces at play. There's the fact that, like Dr. Carey said, braiding is something that's passed down and it isn't formalized. There's culture that's influencing where we are now. There are gaps in the cosmetology curriculum that's factoring into this. And then there's also the fact that just as Black women, we have these beauty standards that we like to adhere to. We want our braids neat, we want our edges laid. And so all of those things have sort of like gotten us to where we are now, but we're also at a point where we can start to make sure we don't go down the path that leads us to destroying our hair instead of like fully celebrating everything that it can do. And so right now we're in a good moment to course correct. Yeah, get our hair to a point where it's just truly representative of who we are, as well as a representative of our lifestyles and what we needed to do in order to live the wonderful lives that we're living.
So, how did we get here?
Oh boy, how did we get here? So we are here because I received a phone call a few years ago from a client that wasn't really happy with the hairstyle that she had gotten through my at-home hairstyling service, Yuluchi. She had gotten a braided style and felt that the braids were too tight. And in speaking with her, I wanted to learn a little bit more about her experience, and I asked her if she had felt any tension or discomfort while the stylist was braiding, and she said yes. And I asked her if she had told the stylist that she was in pain or that she was feeling discomfort, and she said no. And that's when I realized that there perhaps needs to be a lot more education around what is acceptable and not acceptable when it comes to styling our hair.